Guys, it's that time of the year where we rank every Premier League team's season from A to F. We're going to have a look at every team from last season, from the champions to the teams that went down and everyone in between. And we are going to be ranking them on where they finished. I'm going to try and keep it as much as I can to just the Premier League. But of course, I will be adding caveats to teams that are maybe in Europe or domestic competitions, that kind of thing. But let's waste no time. Let's just jump into it. And who have we got first? It is Brighton. What a season for Brighton. Unbelievable. Just six in the league. Europe next season. To consider where they were a decade ago, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. I'm going to go for an A. I've seen a few other people do this and give them a B because they've been, in and around the top 10 for quite a few years now. But it's still Brighton. It is still Brighton, and they are going to be travelling Europe next season. I think just because we've seen Brighton have a good season, we forget where we were at the start of last season. If you'd have said Brighton would finish sixth, you'd say that's unbelievable, outstanding, especially with all the talent we've got with Villa, Newcastle, the top six, of course, obviously, plus a few other teams. For me, Brighton deserve an A, no doubt. Who's next? Crystal Palace. Of course, they started the season with Mr. Vieira, and they actually started pretty well. If you remember, quite a lot of draws, but they got that famous win at Anfield. I think that was the game where Darwin Núñez got sent off, if I'm not mistaken. But they started well and then it went downhill. But of course, Roy Hodgson came in, steadied the ship, and saved the day. For Palace, I'm going to go C. I'm going to go, straight down the middle C. Palace finishing 11th, mid-table. They're not a team that is immune to going down. So I think if you say Palace, you're going to finish 11th, they'll bite your hands off all day. So for me, that is a C. Who's next? Chelsea. Wow. 12th in the league for Chelsea. I mean, the fact that they've had three managers this season, a couple of interims, don't get me wrong, but Tuchel, Potter, and Lampard, it literally goes from one of the best in the world, arguably the best, then to Potter, up and coming emerging manager, and then just Frank, just bottom of the barrel. We'll have you, kind of. Frank Lampard is a 2:30 in the morning manager, if you know what I mean. He's just, yeah, the less we say about Lampard, the better. It's got to be an F. The amount of money they've spent, Sterling, it just hasn't worked this season. Koulibaly, it just hasn't worked this season. The list literally goes on and on and on. And even Enzo, 100 million, it just hasn't worked yet. It's an F. But no Europe next season. Maybe they can do a title charge under Pochettino. Who's next? Oh, Southampton. Southampton fans, you've been in the league for a long time, a long time. You go back to those famous teams you had, 9, 10 years ago with the Lallanas, the Sadio Manes. The list goes on and on and on. You had an unbelievable team back then, and yeah, it's just been getting worse and worse and worse every season. And to finish the season with 25 points, I mean that really is bad. I do give Saints a good chance of coming up next season, though. I think they've got a young squad. A lot of their players aren't going to get poached. One or two, Ward Prowse, a couple of others, but the nucleus of that squad, they're going to keep. They're young. They've been playing at the highest level. So I actually do favour Southampton to come up next season. I've got to give you an F, though. I've got to give you an F. When you finish the season bottom and you only get 25 points, one of the lowest in history, you've got to be an F, sorry. Next up, we go from 20th to 1st, and it's Man City. It's a tough one with City, isn't it? Because I said at the start of the video, I want to try and keep it as domestic as possible. But they're on course for a treble. So, I mean, if they win the treble, you've got to say A star. If I'm basing it on just the league, and I'll give two ratings for them because they're in the FA Cup final. Remains to be seen if they win it. Of course, the Champions League final as well against Inter Milan. But you look at the league table, they finished on 89 points. Now, in the last 5 years, that probably wins you the league 2 of the last 5 years. It's not an amazing points tally for City. If Arsenal hadn't have fumbled against Southampton, which you expect Arsenal to win, if they hadn't have fumbled against West Ham after being 2-0 up and having a penalty to make it 3-1, a 5 point difference in the end. So they kind of, I wouldn't say crept over the line because they won it with 2, 3 games to go. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. Domestically, I'd give them a B just because they've set the bar so high. But of course, it could be an A if they win the treble. So I'm going to go B right now, but an A if they do the treble. Who's next? Villa, Aston Villa. And this is painful as a Wolves fan. This is painful. Guys, do me a favour. If you are enjoying the video, hit that like button and subscribe. Have you done it? Have you done it? Right. Let's get back to the video. This is karma for 3-4 years ago when we were getting to Europa League quarterfinals, back-to-back sevenths. And yeah, you've got to say, Villa fans, fair enough. It is your day on the beach. Seventh, an Unai Emery masterclass. Of course, you've had some dross managers in the last couple of years. Dean Smith. I think Dean Smith's the worst manager in Premier League history. Gerrard, of course, it just didn't work out with Gerrard as well. Emery's just come in, and I think there was only 3 or 4 teams that actually got more points over the course of Unai Emery's time at Villa. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So you've got to go B. You've got to go B. I wouldn't quite go A because I think that's reserved for maybe the top 4. Like if Villa would have got in the Champions League, which of course no one expected them to, you'd go A. But to finish 7th and be playing in the Europa Conference, yeah, that's unbelievable. So Villa, fair enough. Pains me as a Wolves fan, but I'm going to give you a B. You've had an amazing, amazing season. Next is Spurs, and yeah, 8th in the league. I'm just going to say it for Spurs, they're an F. They are abysmal. They are truly abysmal. There is a case to be made that without Kane this season, they go down. And I'm not saying that to get, clipped and put on social media. I'm not saying it for views. For me, Harry Kane was player of the season. I know Haaland broke so many records, 36 league goals, I think he finished on. Kane got 30 in this Spurs team. A Spurs team that finished 8th. Think about that. 30 league goals in this team. It's just unbelievable achievement. For me, I think he was player of the season. I think he deserved it. I think he had a better season than Haaland. I think Kane scores 35 goals and gets 20 assists in that City team. I really do. But for Spurs, yeah, forget Spurs. I'm going to go Kane A star, Spurs F, get in the bin. Liverpool, another top side that have underdelivered this season. And for Liverpool, yeah, 5th, no Champions League football. You look at last season, they were on for the quadruple, and now there's no Champions League, no domestic cup success, no European Cup success, just nothing. Cherry on the cake, you beat Man United 7-0 to beat your rivals 7-0. That game will be spoken about in 30, 40 years' time. 15, 20-year-olds will be telling their great grandkids, in generations to come. So, I mean, that's a highlight of the season, I guess. But I'm going to go C because it's not like they finished 12th or 10th like Chelsea did, or they've still got Europe. It's not great. It's, not great at all. But I'm going to go C. West Ham is up next, 14th for the Hammers. Not a great season, fighting relegation for large parts of the season, but they do have the Europa Conference final against Fiorentina. I'm going to go D, but if they win it, I'm going to say B to stay in the Prem. Because let's not forget, I know West Ham have had a few good seasons, back-to-back European campaigns, and that's amazing. But let's not pretend West Ham have been fighting for leagues and fighting for Europe for the last 15, 20 years. They've been in the Championship 2 or 3 times in the last 15 years. They're a hit and miss team, West Ham, when it comes to seasons. They can either be 7th or they can be 16th or they can be 8th or they can go down. So I'm going to go D because they're still in the league. But if they do win the final, so you stay up and you've got European success, you've got to say that would be a B for the season for me. Manchester United is next. And yeah, I mean, this is a hard one because this is one of the ones that took me the longest to make a decision on, because they're in the FA Cup final. They won the Carabao Cup, of course, obviously, and they finished third. They were never going to win the league. No one thought they were going to win the league. I think if you said to a United fan at the start of the season, it's Ten Hag's first campaign. Obviously, they started the season with Ronaldo. That's how long this season's been. It's unbelievable. You start the season, you win 2 trophies, and you finish third. They're going to bite your hand off for that. Absolutely bite your hand off. So I think if we say that they don't win the FA Cup final and they just win the Carabao Cup and finish third, I think you'd say C, because Manchester United are expectant to win trophies. They are. They're a club that win trophies historically over the past 30, 40 years. They do win trophies, and they should be in the top 4. So I think you'd say C. I think if they do the domestic double and finish third, I think you'd go to B. Because although they've won 2 trophies, they would change both of them or trade both for either the Champions League or the Premier League. They're worth more than the 2 domestic cups. So if they win both, if they win the FA Cup and of course win 2 trophies, I'm going to give them a B. If they lose in the final, I'll say C. Up next is Everton, and wow, Toffees, Evertonians everywhere. You've done it again. You've done it again. I actually watched the Everton. I'm a Wolves fan, by the way, for those who don't know. I watched that Everton game over my team getting pumped 5-0 by Arsenal because it was a dead game for both parties. I did watch that Everton game, and even I was biting my nails towards the end of it. I mean, Decore, wow, God, what a goal. What a goal. Is it the biggest goal in their Premier League history? I think you could say that. I really, really do. You've got to say D. The only reason I haven't said E or F is because, one, they were in the same situation last season, the exact same situation. So it's not like last season they finished 9th or even 14th and then we're fighting relegation on the final day. It's back-to-back seasons now. We've come to expect this a little bit from Everton. So I'm going to say D because they did stay up. If they'd have finished 6th last season and 17th this season, it would be an F. But Everton are where they are now, unfortunately for them, but at least you're still in the league. So D for Everton. Next up is my team, Wolverhampton Wanderers. We finished 13th in the league. We were bottom at the World Cup. And I believe, if my memory wants to serve me well, and I hope it does, I think we had 10 points after 15 games. It was truly atrocious. Everyone thought they were down. If you ask most Wolves fans, a lot of them, they would have been saying, "Yeah, I think we're gone this season." We get rid of Lage, Lopetegui comes in, and at one point we were one of the most informed teams in the league. 5 wins out of 7 during a real crunch time of the season. So for Wolves, I'm going to say C, because if you'd have said to a Wolves fan at the start of the season, you'll finish 13th, I think we'd take that. I think we would take that. We've got to remember that, yes, we did have back-to-back 7ths. Yes, we played in Europe. We got to an FA Cup final. But we're not going to do that consistently. We are a middle, lower end of the table Premier League team. That's what we are. So Wolves finished 13th as average. C for me. Next up is Forest, and to be honest, I'm going to give Forest a B. Even though they only finished a few spaces below Wolves, it's their first season. When the going got tough with Cooper, they kept him. They stuck by him when they didn't win in 7 or 8 games. They went on a few stretches last season, where they just couldn't find a win. But their home form, unbelievable. Really, really job well done by the Forest fans. You've got to say, it really did keep them in the league. Kept with Cooper. I'm going to say B. I think their only aim this season was to stay in the league. So if they'd have finished in the top half or maybe fighting for the European places, I would have gone for an A. But they brought in a lot of players. But I'm going to go B because they have stayed in the league, and they stayed in the league quite comfortably in the end. Who have we got next? It's Fulham. And Fulham, first season back, one of the biggest yo-yo clubs ever. I mean, they just love it. But they did the job this season. 10th finish, flirting with European football for quite a lot of it. And, Marco Silva, he's done an unbelievable job there, an unbelievable job. They did push for Europe for large spells of the season, but they just couldn't hold on to it towards the end. Did you give Fulham an A? No, I think an A is too generous. I think an A. I'm going to go B. I'm going to go B for Fulham. Who's next? Leicester. Wow. This is a big one. Leicester City, 18th. Whether you agree with Lineker's evaluation of it, yes, they've won the Premier League, they've won the FA Cup, and then went down. Would you take that? It's a tough one because no one wants to get relegated. But if you offered me a Premier League trophy and an FA Cup for Wolves, and we go down, and we're probably going to come back up the next season, you take that, don't you? So I do understand where Lineker was coming from, but maybe you should have just let the dust settle a little bit more before saying it. It's tough for Leicester. I don't bank on them coming up because a lot of their players just look like they did not give a shit this season, just did not care whatsoever. And that's what all Leicester fans are saying as well. That's just not me from the outside looking in. You've got a lot of players that are aging. You've got players that just don't want to be there, out of contract. It's going to be tough for Leicester. They've got the finances, I think. They've got the resources. They've still got a decent enough squad there, even with what leaves to go up. But will they do it? Who knows? But for this season, you've got to say it's an F. It's the biggest F out of any team in the league. Who's next? Arsenal. Wow. Second, leading the way all the way. I mean, and the sad thing for Arsenal is that when they look at it, at one point about 3 weeks ago, it looked like they were going to finish 12, 13 points behind City. They actually only ended up 5 points behind them. So you look at the West Ham game and the Southampton game, and you think, ifs, buts, and maybes. But yeah, I think you've got to give Arsenal a B. I think you have to give them a B. No one thought they were going to, not many people outside of North London thought they were going to be in the top four. Never mind push for as long as they did. So yeah, it's funny to laugh at them because they've won nothing. They were in the title race again, didn't win it, whatever. But you've got to say they've had a pretty good season. I'm going to go for a B because without them this season, City would have won the league in March. So yeah, I'm going to go for a B with Arsenal. Brentford up next and a top half finish, 9th. You've got to say the only stain for Brentford this season is the whole ordeal with Ivan Toney. That's really the only black mark on, what is otherwise an incredible season. For Brentford to be finishing in the top half of the Premier League and to stay up again going into their third season next season, that's unbelievable. And you've just got to take your hats off to everybody involved, from the board to Thomas Frank to the players, everyone involved at Brentford. They're unbelievably run club. And you've got to go B. You've got to go B. I would have gone A if they could have maybe got over the line in 7th, a bit like Villa did. But I'm going to give them a B. Unbelievable for them. Newcastle, wow. Do I need to say anything? A, fighting relegation last season up until Christmas. Bruce gets the boot. Eddie Howe comes in and away the lads. I mean, it's just crazy. The turnaround in some of these players. You've got Dan Burn at left back, who just looks like Maldini. Guimarães, of course, astute signings. Joe Linton, Almiron, Wilson, Longstaff. I mean, just Trippier. They've brought smart. Yes, they've spent a bit of money, but we find bang average clubs spending a lot of money these days. Wolves my club spent a lot of money as well on dross players. I mean, crap players. So you've got to say fair play to Newcastle. You really, really do. They've got to be an A. They've got to be an A. And Geordies, enjoy next season. I'm buzzing for you. I hope you win the Champions League. Second to last, we have got Leeds, and I think we all saw it coming, didn't we? I mean, after last season, staying up the way they did, and then even this season, they started all right, but they just looked doomed from about March. We just not run well. Yes, they'd had injuries, but they had injuries last season and the season before and the season before and the season before. Leeds have always got injuries, it seems, so that doesn't really mean anything. The caliber of managers that they've had, as well over the last couple of years. Just not good enough. I throw Bielsa in there as well. The most overrated manager in my lifetime. It was all coming. The silver lining for Leeds is that the takeover, I think it's the consortium that own the 49ers, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like that's going to be completed. I think they've just purchased a club in Italy as well. So maybe they can bounce back. I think they've got a better chance than Leicester. If I was going to be honest, I think Southampton have got the best chance of the teams that went down. But yeah, Leeds just not great at all. I'm going to go for an F, obviously. And last but not least, Bournemouth. And wow, Mr. Gary O'Neill. Nobody, and I would love someone to show me, send me a link, send me a picture, show me any season predictions from last August of any YouTube channel where they put Bournemouth to stay up. I don't think there's a single fan of any club out there that thought Bournemouth were going to do it. And why would you? Why would you think they were going to do it? You look at the squad, and on paper, and no disrespect, but on paper, you look at it and go, you're probably going to get around about Southampton's tally, 25, maybe 28. But to finish where they did, and to finish 15th, and to be safe with 3 games to go, give or take, God, fair play, Bournemouth. I mean, shout out to Billings and obviously loads of other players as well. O'Neill, they've just done exceptionally well this season. You got to give them a B. You've got to give them a B. I'm not going to give them an A. I think that'd be going over the top. But B, absolutely. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Where did I get it wrong, and where would you make any changes? Do us a favor as well. Hit that like button. Do subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.